Dudek? Is that how it is?
Dudek, yep.
All right, cool. So you are a what are you?
Well, according to Instagram, I'm a cosmic energy healer.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's so hard to put a label. I feel like we're all a bunch of different things, but I'm a project manager by trade. I'm a fitness instructor. But I really love to lean into my cosmic energy healing world the most. So that's why I put it in my Instagram name.
Okay, so project manager, that's your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Fitness instructor, you do it for, how'd you get into that?
That I got into, and I could tell you more about too, but I got into it after I was out on medical leave for burnout back in 2021. I started by just working the desk at a bar studio. And I used to be a competitive Irish dancer, and bar was something that I was like, wow, this is really similar to kind of like some of the workouts and the muscles that we were working. I feel like I would really love to teach this. And I also used to be an athlete. I've coached softball. And so I went through instructor training, loved it. And then now I'm a Lagree instructor, which is similar to Pilates, but where Pilates is low impact, low intensity, Lagree is low impact, high intensity. So it gives you a little bit more of a burn in the cardio. So
Uses the reformer machine?
yeah, but it's called a megaformer in Lagree. Pilates is a reformer.
Okay.
So that's why it's more intense when you're doing Lagree. It's a megaformer.
You ever done a Pilates, Moose?
Yeah, I did a free trial class. I hated it.
Really?
Hated it. Why?
It was just a lot, man. It was just a lot.
There's nothing I love more than watching like the NFL player videos of them doing like Lagree or Pilates classes. It kills them, and I love how much it humbles them.
That's something that you have to, I've done it too, and it was humbling. That's a good word.
Yeah.
But it's something that when you see it, you're like,
Come on. Yeah.
It looks fun.
yeah.
It looked fun, dude.
Okay, put my arm up in the air, my leg up in the air. I can do that. And then when you're doing it, all of a sudden you're like, I think I'm going to bust my ass right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to hurt myself. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. You said you were an Irish step dancer?
Yeah. That's what you hung on to out of all that?
I did, because no, I'll tell you why. Because my daughter, my youngest, she's into ballet right now. And the reason she got into that was because she was watching a TV show where aliens learned how to do ballet. I'm not even joking. It's called Alien TV. Watch it on. It is the most ridiculous, hilarious show. It's aliens that come to Earth to experience Earth stuff.
Yeah.
But because they're aliens, they really don't understand.
Yeah.
So then, and they're talking in alien gibberish to each other.
Okay.
And then they report back to their alien world, and the main alien guy does a newscast talking about what Earthlings do. So they're, let's say it's like bowling. They're like, this just in, Earthlings like to take, they like to take these poor little inanimate objects and hurt them by hurling this catapulting this ball at them while they just stand there and have to take it. It's weird. It's weird. It's like somebody like observing Earth for the first time.
Yeah.
But there was an episode where they learned how to do ballet. She saw that, and all of a sudden she's like, I want to do ballet. And we put her in ballet, and she loves it. My wife was a softball person, like you. I'm not a ballet guy.
Yeah.
So that's how she got into it. So how'd you get into the Irish step dancing?
So I mean, kind of a similar, but not that similar story. I saw Riverdance. My grandfather brought me to Riverdance. And I was in like first or second grade, and there was a girl that was in my class that was an Irish dancer. And after I saw Riverdance, I was like, this is wild. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So my mom reached out to that other girl's mom and was like, hey, where does your daughter do Irish dancing? And I started taking classes, and I loved it because it's like, it is such a subculture. Like you would have no idea that like we wear wigs, these big curly wigs. The dresses are like $2,000 and they're studded out with like Swarovski crystals, and like we're athletes. Like my most recent Irish dance teacher used to have a boxing coach come in and condition us because like when you're on stage, you're dancing for like probably a minute, 45 seconds, but it is like an all out, like stomping your feet, jumping as high as you can. Like every muscle in your body is constricted and like tight for that full minute 45. So you have to have crazy endurance that like, it's really hard to try to find a way to condition. She would have us do, if we had to do 3 steps in one dance, like if we're up on the stage and we do 3 steps for our dance, she would have us do our 3 steps 3 times in a row without stopping in order to help us get our conditioning up and stuff. But yeah, I love Irish dancing. If you're in that world, like it's it's like beauty pageants meets competitive dance, like meets I don't even know what. It's just this crazy subculture and it's all crazy Irish people for the most part. Like there are definitely it's a diverse group that do it, but for the most part it's predominantly Irish people.
That was my question.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, are you Irish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm like 65% Irish, a little bit of English. I actually did my ancestry DNA test recently because I was like, what am I?
Yeah.
And I'm very, very, very white. Like, that's basically what it comes down to.
Was there anything cool? Was there like a sprinkle of something else?
Sprinkle of like Scandinavian, like Norway, Sweden.
That's
still very
that's
white.
powerful white.
Yeah,
That's
Viking.
That's white with muscles.
She was like Norse mythology, man.
Yeah.
Which is funny, and maybe not. I don't think anything's coincidence. My parents have a house down the Cape, and it's on Fallon's Pond in Dennis, which is supposedly there's lore that Vikings went up Bass River and landed in Fallon's Pond, and we live on Norse Road, which is like so. Yeah,
Oh,
I always
wow.
think nothing's coincidence, and that's one of those things that I was like, we really are Norsemen. Look at us.
My God. Have you done one?
I have. Yeah. I mean, guess. No. It's Puerto Rican, but then it breaks it down. The next, I could tell you right now.
Imagine you get it back. It's like he is the freaking Puerto Rican.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny because my mom is dark and my dad is like pasty white. They're both Puerto Rican, but like she's dark and he is like if he goes in the sun, he goes red. He goes from white to red. He doesn't tan.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of African that in my family, and then like straight up like European, like Spaniard, and I'm like, well, I could tell you which side, which parent gave me each. But then there was nothing shocking. There was that a little bit of Native American, and that's pretty much it. I actually did years ago a genealogy test that traces. Have you heard of the haplogroups?
Is it like the health things? No, it's not.
No. It traces like when humans first started migrating.
Yeah, I was gonna say coming over from like Africa and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it broke down. I forget which haplogroup out. It was like at the time it was like A, B, C, and I forget which one I was in. But it traced literally the lineage of where
that's really cool
and how they came and stuff. Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, what about yourself? Have you done one?
Yeah. I got on my dad, he's like Middle Eastern and native North African. Then my mom's was shocking. Hers was like 72% Italian and Greek, and then like 15% Iberian Peninsula, which is like Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, that's what I have in mind too.
Yeah, Iberian Peninsula. I went, Ma. I was like, what is this? She's like, I don't believe that. I'm Algerian. I'm like, oh.
She goes, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I was like, well, it's saying
It's
you're
science.
this, and then because Ancestry will update you for finds like stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're doing an ad. It's
I know.
like, literally. And if you use code Passion Project today, it'll give you updates if they find stuff. And they sent over my mom's my great grandparents, their immigrant documents from Sicily to Algeria.
Really?
And I said, Ma, she goes, I'm like, did you know your grandparents? She goes, no. I'm like, well, here you go. She still doesn't believe it. She thinks it's some con.
Fake. Yeah.
See, that's what sucks with mine. I don't have any of those, like the any documentation of stuff, just because a lot of my grandparents, they grew up very poor, and back in those days, it was just like, you're just born.
Yeah.
Which
And that's
it was 23andMe or Ancestry?
Ancestry.
Oh, okay, see, I use Ancestry too.
Yeah.
I
And
was gonna say I want to do both because I've known people that have done both and compared both of them, and they are usually very similar. But it's interesting with those little like sprinkles, like you were talking about. Those usually kind of vary a little bit of where the sprinkles come from.
Yeah, exactly.
so, you know what's funny? You were talking about Dennis. Do you know about the cult that's near there?
Oh, that's in like Barnstable, the little people.
No.
Oh.
There's a little person cult? Are you serious?
Supposedly.
No, so there's one. I have a friend who lives in it's Dennis Port. It's like either Dennis right there, but where she lives, there's a cult, and they're called the something Jesus. It was started by two lesbians in the 70s. I'm not joking. They have the compound is right by her house across the street. The entire town is. So if you join this cult, they'll take you in, they'll give you housing. They might not put you with your family, husband, wife, kids. They might separate you, but they'll give you a job in the town.
Yeah.
Except all your money got to go to the cult. But they'll give you housing, they'll feed you, all that stuff. Yeah, and they walk around with like brown, like almost like brown sacks. Yeah.
I've never heard of this. This is crazy. I'll have to ask my parents. My parents both grew up going to the Cape when they were young, but wow.
She lives, her mom's house is right, you could see the compound, and it she lives right by the beach, so going to the beach, the compound's right there. And I said, do they try and hardcore recruit you? And she said, no, because they've been living there forever. And she said, no, they leave us alone. Whenever, if somebody puts a house up for sale, they buy it for their people, but they leave them alone. And I said, so they leave you alone. They put on a fireworks show every 4th of July.
Is this on the Bay side or the Sound side? Like, are you north or south?
I think the Bay side.
Like Mayflower Corporation, that's the Bay side. Or is it like West Dennis Beach?
Maybe that
West
one.
Dennis, that's Sound side. Okay.
I'm gonna look it up, but I said, so they do that. I said, they're quiet because they never come out. They rarely come out. They don't really do any crime. I'm like, this sounds like almost like the perfect neighbors to have.
Yeah.
I gotta find it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I don't even know how to search this.
Charles Manson. I don't know how we got into cults.
Because we were talking about the Cape.
# cults on the Cape.
I didn't even know that was.
I didn't either.
A Cape cult. Wow.
I'm gonna ask my parents. This is gonna set. My dad's retired now. This is gonna be his new black hole.
Imagine he's like, you had no idea about this, Melissa?
He's like
Community of Jesus.
Community of Jesus. Okay.
Community of Jesus. They also did a documentary on them. Yeah, it's called the Community of Jesus.
Are they actually a cult, or are we?
No, it's an actual cult.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if a cult calls himself a cult.
I was gonna say
right.
But it's an actual cult. Have you ever heard of the Garbage Eaters cult?
No.
I'm
not up on my cult.
So
culture.
I forget what they call themselves, but people call them the Garbage Eaters cult. I had a friend whose her nephew or something was in it. And they basically, when they join, they give up all their belongings and they pretty much spend their time almost like grabbing food and stuff out of trash and asking, almost like I think you would think they're homeless because they'll like ask people for money. But this kid apparently was so in the cult that there's another group of parents whose kids are in cults, and they basically, what they do is to keep track of their kids because this cult moves around a lot. So they found him, rescued him. I say rescued him, that's their term, but it wasn't his term because they had to deprogram him because he was so
Conditioned,
so conditioned. He ended up leaving, going back. They got him again, pulled him out, deprogrammed him. He left, went back, and last I heard, I haven't spoken to my friend in years, but last I heard, they're just basically like, all we can do now is just keep track of him because he clearly doesn't want to leave.
My God.
Isn't that insane?
I've never. Yeah, I mean,
what's the pro to eating garbage?
Yeah,
how are they luring people in with this?
That's a great question.
I know.
That's a great question.
As you're talking, I'm like, what? But why does he keep going back?
That's a great question. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what they do. Like when they're not doing that. I don't know, man. Whoever's in charge of this is like,
because the old group. The first group, the Cape Cult, that makes sense. Yeah, we're taking care of you. We got your whole
we're feeding you. We're housing you.
Come eat garbage with us. Like, what?
Come find a spiritual essence from the leftover Rice Krispie treat.
Some people, when they feel lost, I have a daughter in college right now, and I have another daughter going to college next year. And my biggest concern, they always say that they try and get like freshmen coming in who are a little bit confused about life and stuff. That's where they hook them for cults. I'm always like, please don't fall for somebody. Yeah.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
don't let anybody pull you in.
This is Romero's passion, his cults.
I love cults.
I love cults.
Everything's like, if you think about it, it's not a maybe cult's a strong word. Everything is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know this. You're into fitness, right?
Yeah.
Tell me that fitness isn't a weird ecosystem.
It totally is. Yeah.
Yeah, you have people who are into just like fitness, but then once you go into fitness, then there are people who are like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, running is the way to go. And then someone else is like, no. CrossFit is the way to go.
Right.
And then the power lifters say power lift. And then they're all crapping on each other.
But then even within each of those modalities, then you have like by studio or by space that you go to or the gym you go to too. Yeah.
So you go to the gym, let's say, whatever. What is it? Lagree.
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 Yeah.
You go to the Lagree gym, right? Somebody joins, they get into it. Now there's levels of people who've been going there, and there's one person who's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you're into it, but I come like 4 times a week. You only come twice.
Yeah.
God.
Right.
Everything.
No, totally.
Think about at jobs. There's that ecosystem at jobs where, like, you know, life is high school. Life is high school and cliques.
And it just never stops.
It never stops. Families. You have a big family. Tell me that
Clicks.
that's not.
It's clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a big family?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me that that's not like little weird cliques and people
100%.
have stuff with
Yeah.
each other.
It's like the
Yep.
certain cousins that meet up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
100%. And
And
the
then you
people
got, like,
who
a
are like,
weird cousin, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, oh, we just see him on Thanksgiving.
yeah, the cousin that like is like everybody hates me. The cousin who's like, I think, you know, I'm the guy in the family
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all that stuff.
Totally.
Anyway, Irish step dancing.
And how it
I
relates
told
to
you, we go-
cultism.
I told you we go all over the
love
place.
it.
So
This is great.
so you do performances or is it competitions?
It's competitions.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah, it was mainly competitive. We would do performances around like Patty's Day and stuff. Like every St. Patrick's Day, I used to dance at like South Station in the food court. Like they would let block off this whole area, and we'd do a
Really?
whole like 12-person. It's called a 12-hand reel.
Yeah.
Where we'd all do this like interweaving dance type of thing. We'd go around to different churches and dance at masses. And then at the end of the night, we'd end up at like the Beachcomber in Quincy and dancing at a bar after people have been drinking all day. So
Really?
That's usually in the spring season. But for the most part, like you have the Oireachtas, which is regionals. You have that, like there's New England Oireachtas in the fall. Then you have nationals in July. If you place at nationals, you qualify for worlds, which changes every year. It's been in Boston once or twice, but it could be in Ireland, it could be in England, it could be, I think Australia actually had one once
wow.
too. But yeah, there's a lot of Irish dancers in Australia. There's a strong,
Really?
because I think there's a lot of Irish that go to Australia too, so they bring it there. But yeah, the competition circuit is crazy.
So it's similar to maybe like the competitive cheerleading type of thing? Like do you do
Yes.
judging?
Yes, except for what I know. So ironically enough, when I was in college, we used to also be a gymnast when I was little, and then I was doing a back handspring on a beam, fell and broke my collarbone, and I was like, I think I'm good with this. Like, this is a little scary. But then as I got older, I was like, oh, I'd love to do like tumbling again. Like, I would love to just go to a gym and relearn how to tumble. And it was like classic bring it on situation where I was like, this school has no gymnastics team. This is kind of my last resort. Can I come and tumble for like winter basketball cheerleading? And they were like, sure. So, and they hated me because I didn't take anything serious. They were like, show us your donuts. And I'm like, what? When you put your arms up in cheerleading, you're supposed to show your donuts. Like your wrists are supposed to turn out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, show me my what? What are you talking about? And I would like laugh the whole way through. But with like the tumbling and stuff, I learned very quickly that cheerleading, there's like 10 to 12 different organizations. So when people are like, we're going to Worlds, there's like 14 different world championships, like because there's so many different affiliations.
Yeah.
Irish dancing, there's really only one. Like there's the CLRG, which is Gaelic Commission Larinka Gaelacha, which is the Commission of Irish Dancing in Gaelic.
Yeah.
That's it. Like if you go to Worlds and you are the world champion, you are the world champion. It's not like there's all these different worlds that you could go to. So
Yeah.
that's what I really loved about it.
Was your team high on the competitive scale? Were they good or?
Yeah, I mean, I competed solo. You can do teams, like you can do teams of 4, teams of 8. But I did solo competitions. But yeah, we were pretty good. We had our school was a break off of another school, which is drama in the dancing world. Like if a teacher wants to break off and start their own school.
Ecosystems.
Ecosystems.
You're right.
And then I wasn't part of that original school. I was at a different one, and my old teacher was starting to do some like shady stuff with like, she didn't want you to pay via like check. She only wanted cash. My dad was like, this is sketchy. We're going to a different school. Like, what's going on? So I went to that new school, but I couldn't compete for a year. If you change schools, you're prohibited from competing for a full year. You have to be with that school for a year before you can go into competition. So yeah.
So you can like train with everybody, but you just can't.
Well, also so people don't just bounce back and forth and try to like, schools don't just recruit and cherry pick girls to be like, you're competing for me at this competition and then for them at that competition. It's so that like you are loyal to your school and you are competing for them. So
Wow.
it's crazy.
How often are you practicing?
I was dancing 3 to 4 days a week. And each one was probably at least 2 hours. Saturdays, I'd be there for 4.5 hours. Crazy.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah, you've been into like fitness and athletics. It's been since you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it's been really great to you. And also too, I mean, ironically, because we spoke on the phone, today's kind of an important day for you.
Yeah. So today is my grandmother's anniversary, and it's 12:34 right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're in alignment. Yeah, my dad's mom, she passed when he was 17, and her name was Grace, and I'm named Melissa Grace after her. So that's usually how, when people are like with this like cosmic and psychic energy or psychic medium stuff, they're like, how did you get into that? I'm like, when I was little, growing up, my parents were always like, if you need help, talk to Grace. So like, I literally have been brought up being told to talk to dead people for like help, and it was never weird to me. But yeah, she died on November 1st, which is All Saints Day, which I think is kind of cool. But she was like 47. She passed of breast cancer. Oh, no. My dad was 17. My aunt, I think, was 19 or 20. But I obviously never met her. But as I was growing up, I would ask for stupid things, like in like elementary school. I'd be like, help me on my spelling test and things like that. That's like, okay, whatever. But there was one specific time where it kind of like rocked me. My aunt used to joke that there was a picture of my grandfather and Grace up in my living room on their wedding day, and they were paintings. They weren't even pictures because it was like that old. But my grandfather's portrait was always crooked. No matter how many times we've fixed it, his would always end up going crooked, and hers was perfectly straight. And we're like, oh, haha, Grace. Like, she loves to just kind of throw things off. But then when like burning CDs first became a thing, like my dad was super into it, and I was like, Dad, like burn me a CD. And he was like, all right, give me your playlist. Like, I'll download them off like Napster or LimeWire or whatever the hell it was. He burned me my CD, and he's like, all right, Melissa, like, here you go, but don't break it. Like, and he was very specific and adamant. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. Like, he's like, don't break it. Like, if this means something to you, whatever. He always tried to make things a lesson for some reason too. But so I take the CD, I run upstairs, I go to like put it in my boombox. And the way that my room was set up, I like took the CD out of the case, threw the case on my pillow, went to go put the CD in the boombox on the other side of my room. And then I went to go bop back over to my bed and jump and like sit on my bed. And I went to sit on my pillow, and I was like, oh crap. Cause I was like, I'm going to sit and break the case. He literally just told me not to break it. And I looked, and the case was then on my desk. And I was like, there's no physical way. It wouldn't have made logical sense for me to like put the case on my desk and go backwards to my boombox type of thing. And I was like, oh my God. And then for some reason, literally the first thought in my head was Grace moved the case. Like, and that's kind of intuition, is like your gut and someone telling you, if something pops in your brain, someone's putting it there.
Right.
Like, so I like ran downstairs and I was like, Dad, I almost broke my CD case, but Grace moved it to my desk and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like talking a million miles a minute. He's like, what are you talking about? And my parents are like, when I was little, they weren't really like into any of that stuff. Like, they would kind of just shrug it off and be like, okay, whatever, crazy, like go listen to your CD, whatever. But that was one of my first moments that I was like, oh no, like shit, she really has my back. Like, she's really my guardian angel. So I would start to ask her for more things, but then as you get older, you're kind of like, you're a teenager, you go into college and stuff, like you kind of have like that little fall from innocence where you're just like, is this actually like real things? Like, you start to get clouded with different, like either like judgments from other people or I don't know. So I stopped like talking to her, asking for help. And then when I was like 21 or 22, I should also mention, when I was 14, I also was in the room when my grandfather passed. He had cancer. He was in a coma for like 3 days. We put a hospice bed in my aunt's room, and it was really cool. Like, all of us, our whole crazy big Irish family, were pretty much in the room when he passed. My cousin Diana she was like, I want to sing a song for Poppy. And we were like, okay, what do you want to sing? She's like, God Bless America was his favorite song. So she sang God Bless America. As soon as she finished, he opened his eyes, smiled, took his last breath. And I was like,
oh my God.
Holy shit. And Diana's like, I killed Poppy. We're like, you didn't kill Poppy. Like, no. You helped him pass over.
Yeah. Your song killed him.
Yeah, right. But so then, and actually my aunt, when he was in the coma, she was like, give us a sign when you make it to the other side. Like, just let us know that you're okay. And so my cousin Ashley and I went upstairs to her room, and we're like crying. We're like, we just lost our grandfather, whatever. Middle of August, it's hot as hell out, but it was like a sunny day. All of a sudden, the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life was like a bomb hit the house, like the loudest noise. We both like jumped on the floor in the fetal position, and we went downstairs, and there was just bark all over the front lawn. A lightning bolt struck the tree that was next to the room that he died in, and it was right after the hearse had just left. The undertakers came to take his body away. Yeah. Right after they left, a lightning bolt struck the tree next to and there was no fire, nothing. It was just shedded bark all over this lawn. Yeah. And we were like, okay, I think he made it. Like, talk about literally going out with a bang.
I 100% believe that.
Crazy things like that.
I believe
and
that
then
stuff.
2 years later, it's funny that you brought up the Notebook too before we were just started recording, because I was going to ask too if you had known anybody that has ever had dementia, because my grandmother had dementia. His wife, my Poppy's wife, she was nanny. She was in a nursing home, and we kind of knew as it was getting to the end, like, that she was probably going to pass pretty soon. So we went on like a Saturday. I think my family went. We sat with her. She was nonverbal really at that point. She was making noises like just like boom, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And we were like, okay, like, but we love you. And my mom kind of said to her, like, it's okay. Like, you can go. We're good. Like, be with dad type of thing. And 2 nights later, I had a dream that my grandfather, we were at, I would have dreams that I was just sitting and talking to him and like very casual conversations, like a black room, 2 chairs, us just facing each other, shooting the shit. Very weird, but very like normal to me for some reason. And he was like, all right, you ready? And I'm like, ready for what? And he's like, things are going to get a little crazy. You're going to get shaken up a little bit, but like, don't worry. It'll all be okay. Everything's going to settle. But I want to just check and see if you were like ready. And I'm like, I mean, I guess so. Sure. And I woke up and the phone was ringing and it was like the middle of the night. And I heard my mom be like, oh, okay. Yep. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. And I got up and went into my mom's room and I was like, did Nanny die? And she like went white and she was like, yeah, like that was the nursing home calling to let me know. And I was like, oh my, like I was rattled. But then my mom was like, she was like, oh, how did you know that? I was like, I had a dream that I was talking to Poppy. He asked if like I was ready and things were going to get crazy. And she looks at me and she's like, I had a dream too. And I was like, you what? She's like, I had a dream that we were at Foley Drive, which is the house in Framingham that my mom grew up in. It was a split story ranch. She's like, I was up in the kitchen. I don't even know what I was doing, like cooking. And then all of a sudden Poppy and Mr. Landon, who was my grandfather's best friend, who is still alive, which is kind of weird and funny, but the 2 of them were carrying my grandmother out on a gurney and out the front door. And my mom was like, Dad, like, you need any help? And he goes, no, it's all right. I got her. And then the phone rang and my mom woke up and that was the nursing home calling to say that my grandmother had passed. So those 2 things happened when I was in high school. Like my grandfather died when I was 14, my grandmother when I was 16. And like all of that kind of like being like a hormonal teenager too, I think like I started to get like went through like a depression type of thing, but not bad. It was just like, again, I think just high school.
Confused.
Yeah, high school, maybe a little confusion. Like,
what is this? Like,
yeah. And I kind of just like dejected it for a little bit. And I think it was just grieving and being like, all right, well, this is just life and how things happen. Like people you love die and you got to figure it out and life goes on. And so then that was really where like that lull came in where I'm like, I don't need to ask like Nanny, Poppy, Grace, like I don't know, is any of that like really real? So I kind of went through this lull where I didn't think about it at all. And then I decided to go to a medium when I was like 21, 22. And like almost right off the bat when I sat down, the guy was like, Grace wants to know why you don't ask her for help anymore. And I was like,
what?
Shit, don't know. Like, and that immediately was like rattled me because I was like, you're right. Like I haven't really been like talking to her, acknowledging her, or even my Nanny or Poppy. Like things have I just kind of dejected it. So from there, I started to kind of really lean into it a little bit more. But then even still, like, I don't think I really started leaning into things until probably like 10 years after that. I was in a job that was like super toxic. I got really bad burnout and I went out on medical leave for it. And it was a 12-week medical leave. And I'm like, okay, aside from like therapy and sleep, like what am I going to do here with the next 12 weeks? And I hired an intuition alignment coach, which she basically helps you hone in on your psychic medium abilities, your intuition, how to like register signs from the other side and all that good stuff. So that was really eye-opening to me, that 12-week period. And 4 weeks into it, buckle up, we were talking about more death. Unfortunately, my father-in-law had ended up passing away. He had melanoma, and things like went downhill pretty quickly. It was January 2021. And he had a seizure on like a Saturday. And then that following week, like there was a moment where we were like, oh no, it might be okay. The melanoma had spread from his lungs up to his brain. He had had brain surgery like 4 or 5 months previously. But throughout that week, things started to just kind of get progressively worse and worse. So we were like, all right, the goal here is to try to just get him comfortable enough so that he can go home. And God loved the doctors that he was brought to MGH and they brought him to an ortho trauma floor instead of the cancer floor because it was still in the middle of like COVID. So we were able to go and like see him because it was on the ortho trauma like day surgery floor. But even then, like you could tell he was starting to definitely go downhill, and they're like, he was only kind of making eye contact with you and like either squeezing your hand for certain things. So once they got him comfortable enough to get him in an ambulance and go home up to Chelmsford, I looked at my mother-in-law and I was like, can I like set up the living room? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, can I like make it like kind of witchy in there and like get it nice, and like we'll set up an altar with like pictures and crystals and put candles and music and everything. She's like, absolutely, give me like full reign. And I'm like so grateful for her for letting me do that, because I was in that container. I'm texting my intuition alignment coach. I'm like, red alert, like buckle up. How do we get through this? Like, I know he's gonna cross. Like, what can I do to help him, basically? So that's what we did. Like, we got to set up the hospice bed, and the way that they first came in and set it up, I was like, this like doesn't feel right, like energetically. Like, it was just like they threw it in a weird corner, and like I was like, no, angle it this way. Like, we'll put the altar here so he can see pictures of the family, and then candles here. We played like Reiki music, and so he got home on it was a Friday, I believe, Friday at like 8-9 o'clock in the morning, and they give you this book, like the hospice people give you this book of like what to expect when someone's gonna pass, like physical signs of things, which nobody gave that to us when my grandfather was passing. I was like, what the hell is going on? That was like, had jolted me. But it was nice to have that book. And then all of a sudden he started like kind of checking some of those boxes where like, oh shit, like things are really going to happen here. So I was texting my coach, and I was like, okay, game time. Like, what do we do? She was like, you and your husband go to his feet, hold his feet, and imagine that you're like pulling energy up from the earth and like channeling it straight through him. And like, you're trying to like rocket ship him up to the heavens, basically. We're like, okay. So we kind of like did that. And he passed, and we were all with him. He was surrounded by his family. And like, again, I'm very, very grateful that we were there. But so again, that was like the second death that I had experienced in person. That I tell people that it's almost like birth. Like, birth is like not necessarily a beautiful experience. Like, yes, it is beautiful. You brought like a human into this world, but like physically, it's not a very pretty situation. Right. It's like the same thing with death. I feel like it's really physically not that pretty, but like once you realize that like they have crossed to the other side, it is like a very kind of weird, beautiful, heartbreaking, but like encouraging feeling, that especially if you were there to be able to help them through that. So again, that was like a month into me being on this burnout leave. And thank God I was on leave, because if I had been working in that crazy toxic job, I don't even know what I would have been like a mental breakdown, fast track for sure. So again, I don't think anything is coincidence. I think everything happens in the timing, in the way that it's supposed to. And the fact that I had hired this intuition alignment coach at the time that I did, and had her to be on like speed dial to be like, how do I help them? How do I help him cross over to the other side? Was amazing. But then now my father-in-law is another person that I have that I've like on the other side. That was a very long-winded answer about, no,
that's fine.
Tell me what's today. And now I'm like, here we are talking about a rabbit hole.
So when you say about helping them to cross over, is it like, what are the obstacles that are, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think something that I definitely kind of felt with my father-in-law was like, especially, he was only 61. Like, he was not old by any means. Like, obviously we all felt like he had a ton of life left to live. Like, he hadn't yet got to see like any grandchildren be born and things like that. I think that they struggle with like leaving behind who is here and crossing over to the people that are excuse me hello, crossing over to see the people that are on the other side. Because it was interesting that there were moments where he would just say things, like he had his eyes closed and he put his arm out for a sec, and he was saying, he would go, Lee, why do you spell it like that? And his dad had passed when he was kind of young. I think he was in his 20s. And his dad's name was Leon. My sister-in-law's name is Leanne, but so Leon is Leon and Leanne is Leigh and then space ANN. And so he just said like, Lee, why do you spell it like that? And I think it was like he was talking and like almost making an introduction of like his dad was right here and Leanne was here. And he was like, Lee, meet Lee. And then I think his dad, he was saying what his dad was saying. Like, why do you spell it that way? Why didn't you spell it like a different way? So I think that souls struggle. They know what's on the other side, and it's like, how long do you think he had waited to be able to like see his dad again and his mom and be able to be reunited with them, but at the same time leaving everybody that's here in the physical world? Like, that's a big straddle and like a decision they have to make themselves to be like, okay, I'm ready to fully cross over to the other side. So
wow.
I never thought about it that way. Wow.
Yeah. I firmly believe like when you're unless you die in a very sudden, tragic way.
Right.
That if you're like sick or elderly or however, if you kind of have a little bit of a runway where you're going to cross, I do believe like your people start to kind of come forward and be like, all right, you ready to like come hang out with us? I feel like it's like a big barbecue on the other side. Like all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, look who's here. Like, look who finally showed up type of thing. But it's hard because like as humans, we think that this is just like, it's so finite and it's all here and like everything we can see and touch and that's very physical. So it's hard to like want to be on the other side knowing that now you're going to just be this energetic presence and they're not going to be able to see you and feel you and touch you and smell you anymore. Like, it's a very hard thing to really accept crossing over to the other side.
When you say the intuition coach was helping you see signs and things like that, so you like, could I go to her and she'll help me?
Yeah.
And okay, so give me.
We're
an
all
example.
every single one of us has psychic medium capabilities.
Yeah.
It's like a radio. You can turn up the volume, you can turn down the volume. Some people turn the radio off altogether. They don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it, they don't want anything to do with it. It's just about getting rid of the filter and trying to over logicize and justify certain things. Like I said, if you're in the shower and something pops in your head, you're like, oh, that's weird. If you think of someone and then 2 days later they call you, like that. I love when things like that happen. Things were happening way above and beyond you that you can see that like your squad and their squad were probably like, hey, you guys need to like connect again. Like you're going to think of that person. They thought of you. It's just getting rid of the like human filter of like trying to be like, oh no, that's just a coincidence. Literally nothing is a coincidence. The fact that we're here today and we're recording on Grace's anniversary, like when you said like Friday the 1st, does that work? I'm like, of course it works. Like, of course this is happening today.
I 100% believe that. I remember one time I was having dinner with a bunch of friends and me and a friend of a friend were just like kind of to the side, just talking amongst each other. And he said it like you. He said, he was a very spiritual dude. I wouldn't say religious. He was just very spiritual. And he said everything happens. He said, you and I are having this conversation right now off to the side for a reason. Those people who are walking behind us right now, they're walking behind us for a reason. It took us a while to start recording this damn podcast because the computer was crapping out. That happened for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I wouldn't say too, like I hesitate to say that everything happens for a reason because like if you lost someone super tragically, like I'm not going to like, there's a girl who, I don't know if you've ever heard of Rachel Hollis. She's like a motivational speaker. She's written a couple books.
I've heard the name.
But like her brother killed himself and she found him. She's like, that didn't happen for a reason. Like there can be meaning behind everything. She's like, I don't think there's a reason that my brother killed himself and I was the one to find him. But so like, I always want to make sure that that's very clear that like, there doesn't have to be like a reason and justification, but you can find meaning behind anything. Like maybe
that's a good way
he trusted her the most, or he knew that her mom or dad could have never ever handled seeing that, and that's why she was the one to be able to find him because she whoever knows. But again, that's the kind of thing that she explains is like you could find a meaning behind everything, not necessarily a reason. So
give me an example of things to look for, because it's funny when you were telling the story about your grandmother moving the CD case and everything like that. I'll never forget when my grandmother passed away. She passed away. She lived in Puerto Rico. For some reason, I couldn't go to the funeral. And I remember it was just one day I was driving to work, and I don't know why, I just felt super guilty about it. And I was driving to work, and I literally said to her, I go, can you give me a sign that you're cool, that you understand that I didn't go? And then I said, and when I say give me a sign, like I'm stupid. Like don't make it like a little, like I have to decipher it sign. I said I need it to be like obvious.
Yeah.
Like don't make it hurt.
Yeah.
But I literally need it to be something like pretty obvious. So I remember I drove into work, parked in my usual spot where I park, right? Boom, go inside the building. This is in Medford. This is when I worked at Jammin'. I go inside and I'm into meditation and all that stuff. So I drop my stuff in the studio. I'm getting ready to go meditate. And all of a sudden somebody goes, hey, is that your car? I said, what do you mean? And they said, there's a car that's like, the alarm is just like, meh, 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 going off like crazy. And I'm like, my car? There's like 3 cars in the parking lot, and I park like away from everybody. I go to the window, my car's just freaking lighting up. And I'm like, how that? That's the sign.
Yeah.
I said make it obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So there was that. I mean, last week we talked about the psychics who predicted my kids being born.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And things of that nature. And it's funny. I believe I want to know what you see when you look at stuff, because I've spoken to different psychics, and then they all see different things. Like one of the ones who predicted one of my daughters being born said she smells baby powder whenever it has to do with a child being born.
Yeah.
What was the other guy said? He said that he sees people standing. So let's say I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah.
And you're connecting with somebody who passed, connected to me. He said that he literally sees the person standing behind them.
Yep.
Because I'm always like, what, did they talk to you? And he says, no. He goes, I see them standing behind, and they're not sign language, but showing things. They might be holding up something that's blue, which is, after a while, he figures out that blue signifies, like, let's say if it's somebody standing behind me and they're holding something of blue above my head, that signifies an older male in my life.
Yeah.
Or they might hold something kind of under you. So I'm like, oh, that's
they have
really
their own form of communication.
Yeah. Because
you build
when you
a
think
language.
about someone with a psychic, you just picture them like in the movies, or like the ghost is like, tell them that I said to do this.
Right.
So what type of things do you picture when you're what is it, tarot cards, and what else?
Well, that's a certain like kind of modality of it. If you want to think of it like parallel to the fitness world, like tarot and astrology, like those are all different. You could call it like bar, yoga, CrossFit, all those things. But going back to what you're saying, like the guy was like, I smell baby powder. For every sense that you have, there's a clair sense, which is like your energetic sense. So, and I just pulled it up because I wanted to make sure I had them all right. Clair salience, which is normally like salience is your smell. Clair salience is that he could smell things from the other side. Like, and then you have like clairvoyance, which is clair seeing, like the other guy could see things happening. There's clairaudience, where people hear things. Claircognizance, which is clear knowing, like they just get a thought that pops in their head. Clear empathy, which is clear emotion. So like if all of a sudden they start to feel just like really sad, like they can feel from the other side. There's clairtangency, where there'll be like actual physical touching. They'll feel someone touch them. Like left shoulder means like maternal side, or like things like that.
Yeah.
And then clairgustance, which is clair tasting. So like every sense that you have, every physical sense, you have a clair sense. Everybody has a different strength. Same thing in the physical way. Like some people taste things more than they do, or smell, have like a higher sensitivity to smell or hearing, sight. People wear glasses, stuff like that. Everybody's strength on that side is different. So that's how all psychics kind of work differently. They kind of lean into whatever is the strongest for them. So, bless you.
Bless you.
They lean into, you lean into whatever is the strongest for you. And then you can use tools like tarot. Some people use like those like pendulum type of things. Those can help support things, but that's what the intuition alignment coach kind of helps me figure out, like what does make the most sense for me. So when I first started reading people, like I had a woman who, you just have to ask questions too and not guess why you're asking those questions. It was like I was seeing like an orange, literally like a physical orange. I'm like, do you know someone who's passed that, like there's oranges, like maybe like Florida, like is that because like oranges are like they come from Florida, things like that. And she's like, yeah, my grandmother lived in Florida in a nursing home. She like, and you have to kind of connect the dots that way. Another one too is I'll very much kind of get either certain physical senses or emotions or thoughts that come in my head. I don't like see dead people. Honestly, that scares the shit out of me. And I think that's why I don't, because they're like, I think they don't want me to be rattled and not want to do it. Because I've like said that to my people on the other side. I'm like, I know you're here. You don't have to fucking show me. Like, you don't have to show me. That's weird. Another orange on the screen. Things like that. It's all in alignment. I'm telling you. But like there was one where I read a girl and I was like, my hands are so cold. I'm like, all of a sudden my hands just got really, really cold. I'm like, do you know someone who passed and like you think like their body or something was there for a certain amount of time, that like they were cold? And she had a cousin who had died in a mass shooting out in Denver at a grocery store, and the family was concerned that she wasn't on the other side because they had to keep the body where it was on the crime scene for a certain amount of time because there were so many bodies that they had to process that they were like, we really, it killed us that we thought that like she might have just been laying there cold. I'm like, she wasn't there. Like her soul had left. That was literally just her physical body and whatever. But those were the dots that I had to connect to be able to help them understand that of like, my hands got physically cold. And she was like, mine too, actually, like, which was kind of cool when the other person's people get involved and they start to feel it in the same way. So
like you were saying earlier, like turning the radio on and off, like how do you are you able to go about your day to day and you're like mentally you're like, all right, I'm going to work, or I'm hanging out with friends, I don't want to talk. And then when you're working or someone books a reading, then you like probably sit down and like zone it. Are there some times though also where like literally you can't control it? Like how does that work? Where does that threshold lie?
Yeah, you kind of have you have to kind of have a mental gauge, especially as you get deeper and deeper into it and you understand more and more. Because like you'll walk through life and like they're throwing things at you all the time. It's whether or not you acknowledge them. But yeah, I'll kind of like put up an energetic boundary or mental boundary of like, I don't usually have to do it. Like, they kind of know energetically, I feel like, but there'll be some cases like if I'm going to a retreat next weekend, like I will very much like kind of sit in the morning and do a meditation and have to kind of put up a mental energetic block. If I know I'm going to be around a lot of people, I'll mentally almost like put myself in a bubble where I'm like, protect me from all the things that people are walking around with, especially the people that aren't very like spiritual or intuitive in this way, because they don't even realize the shit that they're carrying around with them at all times. So it's like, think about someone just like walking through, flailing their arms around, whatever, and you have to be like, whoa, like look out. Like that's how I almost feel energetically, is like I have to put up this like bumper around me where I'm like, they don't even realize how hectic and chaotic they are, that like I kind of need to protect myself. But yeah, so for the most part, like, and I'll even too, if I have been around a ton of people, I'll go home and I'll like sage myself and like clear whatever. If anything's attached to me, like get away from me, like try to cleanse myself energetically in that way. But I wanted to go back to the things you were talking about, the signs. That is like perfect, exactly what you're supposed to do. Like you can't just be like, give me a sign that you're here. Like be so specific.
Oh, yeah.
And like there's a book called Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson, who's a very prominent medium. She's awesome. And it's a whole chapter book of every chapter is a different story of a person that she's read and how they connected the dots on signs from their people from the other side. And there's one like, someone was like, show me like a purple octopus of like, or I don't know, green octopus or something in some certain way. And they like went to a gas station and there was a toy that was for sale that was like a green octopus that they're like, oh, like, okay. So like you have to be very specific. You have to put an intention out there too of like, don't just be like, give me a sign to show me you're here. Like you said, give me a sign that tells me that you're okay, that I didn't go to your thing. Make it very obvious. Like, and it was loud. It was visual. And you knew as soon as you saw that, that is it. Like you'll know when it's for you. Like if you try to start to talk yourself out of it, stop, because like there's a reason again that you're like first thought. Same thing with like when I almost broke the CD thing. For some reason, my first thought was Grace moved that case. Like it wasn't like I was like, wait, did I walk in my room and put it on my no? Instantly I was like, Grace moved my case. Grace is taking care of me. Like you'll know in your gut. It's when you start to try to backpedal and talk yourself out of it that it's like, why are you doing that? But
I feel like I sense people's energy, not like people who've crossed, maybe who people cross, but just in general. Sometimes somebody will walk in a room and I always say like tight, like when if you take a rope and you go like this, and you feel like, I'm like, oh, that person's like. Their shoulders must hurt because they're just walking around so like the static tenseness. And then other times somebody will walk in a room and you just look and you're like, I don't even know that person, but I feel like we're cool. Yeah. Because they feel like I equate it as like tight and loose. Totally. You know, and I'm drawn to the looseness of it.
Those are usually the people that are usually super tight. They're not usually very self-aware, and they do have just a lot of shit.
I feel like it's physical.
Energy.
You could almost see it.
Well, what's the word I'm looking for? It manifests physically.
Right.
And like the people that are very loose and open, it's like they know that. Like they're going into a space and they are just very open and they hold their shit together better. Yeah. Like, and even just think of it as like someone's house, like someone who's like uptight and stuff like that. Like I'm sure in some cases, like maybe their house is like full of clutter and it just stresses them out. It's like, but they're not it's there and they're acknowledging it, but they're not trying to like organize it anyway. Other people, if they're like, no, we got to clean this out, we got to clean that out, we got to organize this, like get our shit, they're aware of it, they do something about it. Like that's how it kind of manifests from energy to like physicality.
How long have you been doing readings for?
Since basically that 2021, so it's like 3-4 years now.
Okay.
I was actually really surprised like how much it actually takes out of me physically doing those readings, because I was trying to like be like, all right, let me get the reps in, like I want to read as many people as I can.
Yeah.
The interesting thing too is I can't really read people that are close to me. Like
That makes sense.
and I've heard that from a lot of different psychic mediums, like it has to be someone that I like almost don't even know. Like it has to be, I don't have any context about their life. That's when things usually go better, because then you don't let bias get in the way.
Yeah.
But starting to do those readings, I would like try to book people like 2 to 3 a day, and then all of a sudden at the end of the day I was like, I would literally just feel like numb, because I'm just like, you're an energy conduit. You have to like not go into a trance state, but you have to just be so physically aware, mentally aware, like all of the things to try to piece together and work with the person of figuring out what they're trying to tell you. And you build that language, like you were saying, like the person saw blue, is it high or low? They built that language with their people on the other side to they said that enough times that it tracked, and they were like, okay, so it's like sign language almost, kind of. I don't know. But I realized that it took out so much energetically from me. But that's why I love doing cards more, because cards is like a very, it's a cooperative or collaborative process. Like I'll flip a card and I'll start to kind of say things that go along with those cards. And usually people are like, yeah, like this is tracking for like what's going on in my life. And I appreciate like, Tyler Henry, like the medium.
Oh, the teenage kid? Yeah.
So his first show, the first time he had that show come out, it was like Tyler Henry, like, teenage medium, whatever it was called. He has a show that came out, or a docuseries that came out more recently, that he literally shows. He's like, after I do a reading, I'm in bed for 3 days and I need to like recharge my batteries. And I appreciated that so much, because I think Teresa Caputo also is like, she's one of the most unethical.
That's the Long Island one, right?
Long Island medium. She is
in the
like
grocery store.
She's out in the grocery store like, your dead grandmother's here. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed
a pound
to.
of provolone.
My roast beef ready. Like, literally, you're supposed to like ask someone if you can go into their energy field, and like, it's supposed to be a very consensual type of thing. Like, and that's what it is for TV too. So I'm sure that there probably is an element of like off camera. They're like, hey, she's sensing something from you. Do you mind if she reads you? Like, I'm sure the producers probably say something. But on TV, they make it seem like she literally is like, hey, oh my God, I see all you people here. Like, it's not like that. Like, yeah.
When you do the tarot, see, the one thing that I always have trouble understanding is the tarot card reading, because I'm like, I can go on Amazon and get some tarot cards, right? And then isn't it like a random, so you're shuffling them. Mm-hmm. Like a dealer at a casino.
Yeah.
And then you're just like pulling cards.
Yeah.
And from these random cards, you're connecting things in the person's life that's currently going on, or
well, those cards have
the way they're
meanings,
headed.
right?
Yeah. So a tarot deck, a standard tarot deck, it's kind of made up. I think of it it's a deck split up into a half. Half of the deck is called the major arcana, which is things that they symbolize the bigger arches in your life, and they're cards like the Hermit, the King, the Queen, like they're bigger symbolic cards. Then the other half of the deck is kind of almost like a playing card deck, where you have it broken up into swords and pentacles and cups and wands, and each of those suits are representative of different smaller things in your life, like your day-to-day routine, things to look out for. And then depending on what card you pull from each of those suits, so if you pull like a 2 versus a 10, the 2 is the beginning of the arc, the 10 is further along in the arc. So it'll tell you like, oh, you're just on the beginning of this journey within this type of realm of your life. If it's in the smaller number, it's the beginning, higher numbers are towards the end.
Yeah.
So that's how you start to piece the things together
But
in that way.
So you know how like in religion, right? Mm-hmm. There's like water, and then like the priest is like, well, this is holy water because it's been blessed.
Yeah.
Do you have to like bless the cards, or can you just like order them, open up the packet, and start?
Anytime we do cards, I do try to be like, I like kind of will put my hands on them and be like, okay, like please bring forth whatever messages the people need to hear, type of thing. Like I always open my energy and then I close it. After we do the reading, I close it up. I say thank you very much. Like then the reading is like done. But I'll also like, it depends on the reading too. Like I'll have, if people can purchase readings online, and I'll do a 3-card pull, and when they buy the reading, I'm like, give me 3 cards, 3 numbers between 1 and 22. So they're picking the numbers of, like, I'll shuffle the deck, and I always cut 6 times, but then the number they gave me, that's the number card I'll pull.
That is what, okay, because I was like, let's say you're going to read me and Moose, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know about the tell me a number or whatever, because I'm thinking you're pulling these cards for Moose, and then you're pulling cards for me, but what if I said, no, do me first? Now you're going to...
Whatever's meant to present itself for you will come up. Like,
yeah. Okay. Well, it makes more sense when you're saying, give me the numbers.
Yeah.
Because then there is some sort of me in the
I mean,
thing.
everybody works differently. Some psychics don't do that. Sometimes they will just do, like, they'll do 1 or 2 quick shuffles, and then they'll just flip a card, and it's like, that's what it is. But there's a reason. Like, if we were going to do Moose first, and then, like, Moose is like, actually, I got to go to the bathroom, and then you went.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Those cards, whatever I was going to pull, it wasn't for Moose. It was for you. That's why he had to go to the bathroom and whatever. Like, those last minute switches are like that. They happen that way as they're supposed to.
Can you do yourself the cards?
Oh yeah, I'll pull you. I don't do every single day, but I'll do most days.
Okay,
like,
that was my question.
I'll just do like a card of the day just to see.
Okay, because if I learned that, I think I would pull cards for myself daily just to see.
It's a good
what's
tool
in
to like
store.
strengthen that intuitive muscle, because it's like. And it's funny, it'll make you like laugh sometimes, where you'll pull a card and be like, that's weird, and then at the end of the day you're like, oh my god, like, yeah, that makes sense that I pulled that this certain thing came up or whatever.
Can people purchase multiple, like, different things from you? Like, do you do like mediumship and tarot and this, or are you mainly tarot that people can buy from you? Not buy, excuse me.
Yeah, no,
Book
no,
your services.
Yes. I've pulled back a lot on the mediumship stuff just because, again, it is so energetic for me.
Yeah.
But there are times too where, like, sometimes I'll feel people like need it, and like I'll kind of throw it out there and just be like, hey, especially if I know that they either like lost someone recently or an anniversary is coming up, I'd be like, hey, like, I'm happy to put a reading out there for you if you need to. But for the most part, like, I'll also do like their birth chart and go through what their birth chart looks like. And your birth chart is what the night sky looked like at the time that you were born, depending on where you were too. So I would need your it sounds wicked, like I'm going to steal your identity, but it's not. It's like the date, the time you were born, the town that you were born, and it's literally what the night sky looked like and where the planets were, in which zodiacs and which houses you call them. Because I really feel like it takes, it's 1/11 on November 11th. It paints a really interesting picture of your personality, your traits, your quirks, like why you are the way that you are. It's literally like your character outline.
I've tried to learn mine.
Yeah.
I've tried to.
What
It's
are your
hard.
signs?
Like my big 3?
Yeah.
Pisces Sun, Capricorn Moon, Taurus Rising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've heard Pisces Sun and Cap
Wait,
Moon.
wait.
It's like opposite.
So
How? Isn't it just like when you were born? Like, I'm Aquarius.
Yeah,
That's your
That's
sun.
your sun.
So your sun sign, if someone's like, what's your sign?
Yeah.
That's your sun sign.
Okay.
But then also the moon was somewhere in the sky when you were born too. So like the sun moves through the 12 different zodiacs, like not slowly, but once a month. So that's your sun sign. The moon moves a little bit more frequently. And then you have your rising, which is, there's like an ascendant star where that's a little bit more quick. Your sun is like who you are to your core. Your moon is how you are, like, kind of by yourself emotionally, like if no one else is around. And then your rising or your ascendant is like how you put yourself out there to the world. So it's like how you show up in certain cases.
Yeah.
So I'm a Taurus sun, Leo moon, Pisces rising. So,
So we're switched.
I was gonna say. So we're like,
Okay, describe you and describe him, and then let's try and figure me out. You know what gets me mad? It's like everything else. Like, you see something in the news about a police officer doing something, and people go, "All cops suck," and it's like, no,
yeah.
a few cops suck, a
Right.
few doctors suck, a few lawyers suck,
Yeah.
a few everything sucks. So whenever there's like a psychic or someone like that, who's the person that sucks? Because there's assholes in
They try
everything.
to, like, generalize.
Yeah.
They go,
Like, oh, he's a
It's
Scorpio,
all bullshit. Like,
Right.
I was telling you stories about people who, I consider legit. I also have done the thing where I've walked in and there's been a woman who's said the most vaguest things ever, and I'm like, I don't understand. She, no, you have to think about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, I do have to tell you something. I sensed something. for $50.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's like there's like it's like that with everything. But okay, let's explain to me, do your thing again, and then explain to me what it means, and then Moose, and then me.
So, do you know your signs?
No, you're gonna figure it out for me.
Okay, I was gonna say we're gonna have to get you on CoStar because CoStar is like, I don't know offhand. If you just tell me like the date and time, like I would have to see what your things were. But for me, so I'm a Taurus sun, which a Taurus to my core. Which what you're saying, like the blanket statements, everybody thinks like Tauruses are stubborn and like they can be hard headed. I'm a Leo moon, which Leos can be very emotional. Like they're very kind of like calm. They're a little bit not apprehensive, but like I don't know, they're a little bit more reserved.
And that's like when you're by yourself.
Yeah, when I'm by myself, or how I show up like energetically too. Like I feel like my Leo, like a lion, even a big caring heart type of thing. Like, and then my Pisces rising. Pisces are a little bit more like spicy, a little bit more like outgoing, and it's the fish sign. It's like the last. It starts at Aries and it goes all the way through, and then I think Pisces is the last one. So, so that's mine. But like, to your point, like when everybody tries to overgeneralize, it'll be like, oh my God, like Virgos suck and whatever. It's like, that's just the sun sign. The moon and the rising signs are what give you all the context of like, you can overgeneralize about everybody's sun sign, like all you want, but it's putting a little bit more color. If you just had the outline of the people, that's the sun sign. Then you start to add in the colors to the picture. That's like the moon sign and the rising sign.
Okay.
So
now what's Moose?
yeah, what were you again? You had
Pisces sun, Cap moon, Taurus rising.
So to your core, you're like a pretty, like, you know who you are, Pisces, like you're a little bit more spicy. Cap moon. Caps are interesting. I feel like Capricorns are always so like they can be are you a December or January? Oh, duh.
March Pisces.
I was gonna say that's your sun. I was thinking the sun, Capricorn sun signs. It's always interesting to me for some reason. December Capricorns versus January Capricorns. It's like, I don't know. Capricorns can be like a little, like I feel like unsure a little bit. So I feel like if you're either by yourself or wanting to be emotional, it's like you kind of hesitate if you want to be or not. Like you don't lean into your like emotional side as much.
Yeah.
And then your rising is Taurus, so you can come off as being very stubborn or being very like polarized on certain things. You have an opinion, that's your opinion. You're not really going to be swayed either way.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay, I knew you were going to jump in and say
I've said that to you before.
Yeah. I mean, but it's funny too because Pisces, they have that sigma where like wicked emotional and like it's just funny because Capricorn's art. So it's like when I'm emotional, I'm like holding it in there. I'm like, I'm gonna pop soon.
Totally, yeah. So your Capricorn moon, that's even like not worse.
Someone
like,
told me they were like the moon wants to be in a, I don't know, I'm gonna butcher the words. Excuse me. It like wants to be in like a divine thing. So like, it wants to be in a sign that is fluidly emotional, and that Capricorns aren't.
Right.
So someone was like, you might struggle with your emotions just a little bit. It's conflicting because then I'm a Pisces and I'm all emotion.
To your core, I know that is hard. That's conflicting.
Yeah, it's a little tough, Mr. Torres.
Okay, so listen, I tell you, I tell him sometimes, I'm like, Moose, you make a decision with something, and it's so hard to like sway your opinion on that.
Yeah,
it's like if someone sucks to you, like they suck.
That Taurus rising, that's
I just know, like I'm just done. It's funny, like what you were saying earlier. Hold on, like after the one thing that gets me is you're so right. When someone walks in, and I'm right. And I'm like, that person sucks. Like, and people are like, you're being judged. I'm not. No. I wouldn't say it. I like to joke around. I like to say I'm psychic. I'm not, but I just know. Yeah. I just know. I'm like,
everyone's a psychic.
And I'm always right. Always right. Anyways.
Stubborn. Okay, so.
It makes so much sense.
February 5th, so I'm Aquarius.
Okay.
Right?
Aquarius.
And what else do you need to know?
Let me see. Let me add you.
My Venus is in Aquarius. I know that.
Your what?
Venus is like your love sign.
Oh, okay. Is that good?
I guess I like weird. Aquariuses are like weird and quirky, right? She'll tell you in a minute.
They're like fluid. So, okay. What you said, February 5th. What year?
1976.
1976. Okay. What place? Birthplace?
Boston.
What town? Okay, Boston.
Yeah.
And then birth time.
I think not. Okay, so my daughter was born at 8:50, so I was born, I believe, 9:50 a.m.
How's your daughter?
Huh?
How does your daughter weigh into it?
Well, because I always confuse the times. Like I have 5 kids.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
but
okay.
the time you were born.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I almost said 8:50, but I said no. My daughter was born at 8:50.
Okay, I got you.
So I was born at 9:50 a.m. 9:50 or 9:55.
Okay. No, as long as it's like within an hour, then that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you are Aquarius sun, Aries moon, and Aries rising.
That makes sense.
Okay. And what? Oh, wait, what do you mean it makes sense? But I don't even know what that means.
She'll explain.
So your Aquarius sun, you're like you're fundamentally unconventional and anti. Like you, you to your core, you're like, no, there's a better way. I know how to do it.
No, the thing before you finish where I'm really anti is the second like a bunch of people are into something, I automatically am. And I'll give you an example. I'm not gonna get all political.
Yeah.
But the other day I was arguing with my friends because they were talking about the election, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying who I'm voting for, any of that stuff, but they're voting for Kamala, and I said, all right. I go, and they were arguing about it. They were mad about like talking about their friends who aren't voting for Kamala.
Yeah.
And I said, can I just say something? They said, what? And I go, hypothetically, let's say I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. And I come in here and I say to you, hey, I'm voting for Trump. I said, the three of you are all going to be like, no, you need to vote for Harris, blah, 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 blah. That's messed up. You need to vote for Harris. But I'm on this side saying, I don't care who you vote for.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to? Isn't there something fundamentally wrong with that, where you guys are trying to bully me into getting on your side when I'm saying you guys can vote for whoever you want.
Yeah.
Just let me vote for whoever I want. No, but you need to do this. And I said, listen, all I'm saying is there's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I do believe that. So anyway, that's my anti thing, where I might agree with you, but just because I don't agree with your methods, I'll be like, you know what? Don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I've always been like that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, basically, you're comfortable dissenting and straying from the norm. Your intellectual talent of abstraction is oriented towards pushing the boundaries of what seems reasonable. And you carry a lot on your shoulders, and you always have a need to fight for the underdog, like you just said.
Man.
Like, you're whatever the opposite is, kind of.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
It really is. I've always been like even things that I'm into, I only get into it to a certain level, because when I see somebody who's like super into it, it turns me off. Mm-hmm. So I love martial arts, love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I love training. I haven't had a chance to train, but when I start training and stuff and I get into it, whenever I meet, like, I don't know, it hits a level where there are people who are like so into it and they identify as that.
Yeah.
And I'm using, jiu-jitsu as an example, but it's like you could pick any aspect of life, and that's when I start going like, okay, I'm not into it that much.
Yeah.
Relax. There's other things going on.
All of a
in
sudden,
life.
it like turns you off to it. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That's so
you wanted to
funny.
stray
His
from the
moon
norm.
is in Aries too?
His moon and his rising.
Wow.
So yeah, your moon in
My moon and
Aries
my rising.
is like your emotional self. You're very like independent, but still like energetic and enthusiastic over the things that mean a lot to you. But you have a tendency to feel inadequate and overcompensate just because failure is a possibility.
Give me an example of that, because I think that's right.
Like
It is right.
like if you were like I ran the marathon. I know Nicole ran a marathon,
Yeah.
right? So like if you were to be training for a marathon, like you would go crazy fixating on the details, because you're like, if one thing falls off the rails, I'm not even gonna finish. Like you need to know that you have things so dialed in, and you have to overcompensate on it to like almost to a fault, simply because you think that if you don't, you're gonna totally fail and fall flat on your face.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah.
I've run marathons in my life.
Okay.
And the first one I ran was New York, and I followed that training plan to a T.
Yeah.
I was like you see training plans, right? You get them, they lay them out.
Yeah.
But life happens. They're like, hey, listen, if you miss a training day because you don't feel good or because of whatever, it's all good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's in the macro sense, missing one day of training is not going to make a difference. Not in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro,
it is.
I was like, I gotta train. If there was a day that there was a possibility of me not training, I still went out there and trained, just because I'm like, I know if I do this, I'm gonna be able to finish a stupid thing.
Yeah.
And then once I did that, I don't know if this isn't my thing, but every marathon after that, I'm like, all right, cool. now I know I can do it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I kind of adjust.
Because that air of failure went away in your brain. That you're like,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that's so funny.
I know, I
it's
love
funny
that.
you use that as an example too.
I know, because I don't want to come and be like, have you ever run a marathon? Because then if you're like, no. Like, I just know Nicole, I actually went to Nicole's fundraiser at Rev'd. when
Yeah,
we
he was
did that.
telling me. Yeah, that was she's very. I wonder what her. See, I don't know what time she was born.
You can well that app she's using. You both it'll compare.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
You can. I love CoStar. CoStar is a free app.
CoStar?
Yeah, you can put it in your date, your time, and everything, and she can do the same thing. And then if you guys become friends on there, it shows you where you're compatible, where you're not. Like my husband, I look at my husband's and I all the time. It's so funny.
When what's it called? One thing you brought up earlier that I thought was extremely interesting too, Melissa, was how you were talking about how, oh my God, wow, I just literally lost my train of thought. Oh my God, you were sorry. You were talking about how leaning back on mediumship because it really just drains you. And we're talking about like Tyler Henry, how he like lays in bed for 3 days stuff. I think it's an interesting concept as well because like for example, I experience that when I exert too much of myself. Doesn't sound so stupid. I exert myself too much for other people. So it's like I'm like that friend where people come and they like talk about their problems and I like listen. I notice if I'm that for like 3 days straight, I don't know what day it is. Now I'm feeling their emotions. I'm upset. My girl cheated on me too. Like I just start, and it takes me a second to like snap back into reality. I think I'm psychic. I keep telling I think I gotta tap.
Everybody is a psychic. I'm telling you. It's just you're trying to keep your volume on low. You're trying to like
I can't. I don't know how to even use the turntable. I've had some very weird. Moose, cut this out. I've had some very weird things. My dad passed away in April. I dreamt of him every single night for 2 weeks.
What was the dream? Was it the same type
Something
of dream?
like kind of like what you were saying, how you sat down with your father-in-law, you said? In your dream?
Grandfather.
Your grandfather.
Yep.
Something different each night.
Yeah.
Every night was just something. And I wasn't scared. It wasn't like, it was very calm. Very normal. Like it was, I woke up like, oh crap, I just dreamed of him, but it wasn't weird. You know what I mean? And I've had weird things too. It's just, but I don't, it's weird when I try to say like, show me a sign, it doesn't work. When I let go of the wheel, that's when the things, it's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And honestly, your dreams that's the closest, that's the easiest place that they can access you. Like you are in such a subconscious state and you don't have your normal like brain overriding things that like that's where they know they can access you and just drop in and be like, hey, what's up? Because you're not in your active conscious state where you could be overriding what they're trying to tell you. One thing that my coach has told me, and I feel like everybody now, is if there is someone that you're really looking to hear from on the other side, put a picture of them next to your bed with a glass of water, because water is life, and write down specifically like what you want to know, what you want to hear, something that will validate from them. And then it might not happen that night. It might take like a couple nights or maybe even a week, but putting it down in black and white, like don't just type it in your phone, write it out, put it in black and white. The cup of water is life, and the picture out of them, like, I don't know if have you seen the movie Coco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So Coco's their passport. You put the picture out. That's their like passport back and forth. You're like calling out exactly who you want to hear from.
Yeah.
That's been a really, really cool and powerful tool that I've used, and I know people have used too.
Yeah.
That is a cool way to access it. And even meditation too. Like those are those times when you're kind of in that almost subconscious state. That's where I call it like you're walking your like line of destiny. And when you're awake and you're trying to over justify, you're like going off to the side, and they'll be like, no, come back over this way. And like when you stray from your intuition and you try to go into other directions, that's when like shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
So, and I've looking back on certain things, like that job that I had that put me into burnout, like I thought it was my dream job at the time. And then a year and a half later, I was like sitting with my psychiatrist and she's like, you are giving yourself a slow burn concussion and like putting yourself at risk of like early onset dementia if you do this, especially where it's already in your family. And that to me was like an oh shit. Wow. But like looking back, it's like, I probably shouldn't have even taken that. I was trying to like chase the money. I was thinking it was going to be this like big career thing. It's like, no, it's not worth it. Like following your intuition is going to continue to lead you to where you're supposed to be. When you try to resist it and do the other things, like those are the moments where you get knocked on your ass and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like
I
should have, everybody knows that feeling of like, I knew better. Like I shouldn't have done XYZ thing. But yeah, like, and you having people come to you and being able to kind of share things with you.
It'll
like
be
first,
strangers.
really,
It'll be people I don't even know like that.
yeah.
And I'm just like, and like, obviously I feel flattered. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but at the same time, I'm like, you don't even know me, and you're
Yeah.
telling me all these things about you, like,
Yeah.
and then what am I supposed to do with all this after you leave? I'm like,
Right. So that's
thanks.
where that's where you have to start to acknowledge, like, almost like picture like a mental shelf, literally. And like whatever they told you, like, okay, that was great. We're just going to put that up on the shelf. And then I'm going to carry about my day and I'm going to move on and like hold what I need to hold as I move forward.
And yeah.
Those types of mental and energetic boundaries that's what has helped me for sure.
yeah, and it's so true what you said about like following your gut and stuff. Like even like before me and him even started working together, I literally, oh my God, I was clawing to get in here like a psychopath. And like we had like a relationship prior to this because like I was like bombarding him on social media. I was like, talk to me.
You were stalking me.
Like I was stalking him. And we had prior, and I'm like, can you get me a job? And he was like,
Stop.
it was post-COVID, and he's just like, I mean,
That
if
Taurus
he's
rising,
like,
that bull, he's
I know,
going right.
literally. I'm like, and he was like, yeah, if something pops up, like just keep me updated. I started working here for a year. We didn't even see each other for a year.
Yeah.
I told him I got a job. He was like, cool. We didn't even talk. Like literally, he was like, oh, nice. We never had an event together, nothing. And then
Yeah.
like, pretty much a year later, he texted me. He's like, do you still work here?
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah. He's like, he's like, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. You want to come and talk?
There you go.
And then I just found it so funny though. But the switch on what you were saying too. Even though I do this and I love doing this with him made me realize I'm pushing away my own goals. And I like had a weird thing where I was just like, I love this world and this stuff, and I think I always will. But there's something else. I think because here's the thing: if you told me 4 years ago I was doing this, I would have been great. That's exactly what I want to do. Now that I'm here, I'm like, interesting.
But, and again, nothing is coincidence, nothing is ironic, but like, this is the Passion Podcast, right? What is the actual official title?
Passion Project.
Passion Project Podcast. Doing this project is what has now geared you and pointed you to be like, oh, like, this is, my passion is over here. Like, I'm doing this project and this podcast and everything, but there's reason and meaning behind everything. It's like, you were like, this is what I wanted to do and we're doing it. I think you're providing so much value to people by even just putting this podcast out in general. But the whole bigger meta lesson of it too is even cool that you just shared is like, okay, I'm doing this and I thought that this was like my passion and the project that I want to do, but actually I'm realizing that something else over here is actually what I kind of want to be doing. I think that's wicked cool. Like,
It was a weird realization.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, like, what does this all mean?
yeah.
Nothing. I was just
No,
like,
and I mean,
yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to like crumple up the paper, throw it away, and this thing like goes to die. It's just then you start to pull the levers of like, okay, maybe we like decrease like the frequency of this, or like, I don't know, you start to figure out, or like, how can we bring in more support here so that I can put more energy into something else over here. It's just that acknowledgement and trying to lean into more of like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and only you're gonna know that. So
since we're like almost an hour 20 in, are you comfortable? Do you want to maybe pull out some cards
Sure.
and see what happens?
Yeah. Let me grab them.
We can give kind of a preview, I guess, to what Melissa, if you were to book her services, this could be a preview. Do you want to go first, or do you want to rock paper scissors?
You can go
Melissa,
first.
do you want to pick, or
We can go first. You can
We
go
gotta
first.
pick?
You can go first.
you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Why?
You said, do you want to go first? And I
Oh,
said
she whipped
no.
out like 4 decks. I thought she was getting one.
I want her to warm up before she gets to
Okay.
me.
All right.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
By the way, my wife she has this weird ability. It's a running joke between us, but I feel like it's a psychic thing.
Yeah.
Where people open up to her
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah.
Like she's a real estate attorney, but she'll come home and be like, oh, I was talking to this person and they said this, this, and this. And I'm like, when were you talking to them? Oh, while we were doing a closing. I'm like, while they were signing papers, buying a house,
Right.
They opened up to you about how when they were a teenager, they wanted to do this, but whatever. She's like, listen, she always jokes. She goes, I have that face. I don't know what you want me to tell you. But she really, like, that's the joke where, like, she has that face where people come up to her and they're just like, I want to tell you about my life.
Yeah.
I don't even know your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
then when I met Nicole officially, the whole afternoon went just
Oh
like,
my God, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then she's in the perfect field because, like, as a real estate agent, you want people to be like telling you the truth about what they want and what the things that they need and all of that good stuff. So That's good.
Do I need to come closer? Or is this fine?
It's up to you. You can stay over there if you want. I know. I saw the one where you had like the magician in here, and
yeah.
I was like, oh my god, that's crazy.
so
That's
not.
Moose was a skeptic
I did.
up until that
I
point.
normally talk a lot. The whole interview, I was like barely even talking.
Yeah.
I was like,
Moose was when he said, "I go, hey, I got a magician coming in." He goes, "Cool." I'm like, "What do you mean cool?" He's like, just not my thing."
Cool.
Anyway, a week later, he's watching him. He's
I
going to
love
the
it.
show.
Oh my god. All right. Romero.
Yes.
I'm gonna cut 6, and then give me that first number, 1 through 11.
5.
All right. So fifth card. Ooh, fifth card from the top. Those are on the bottom, so it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait. What are we pulling for? What's your realm of what you want to do?
Divine purpose. Yeah.
Same
yeah,
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna cut one more time because then those are not the
I'm
right
like
cards.
just in my head. Okay. Pick this number and
1,
this number
2,
because of this.
3,
whatever.
4, 5. The Tower. Okay, so this one is one of those major arcana. It doesn't fall within any one of those suits. So the kind of mantra for this one, it's a fiery card, but it's to always expect the unexpected. Things can happen through like there's themes of like collapse, upheaval, destruction, foundational shift, reality check, ambition, and adversity. So those are like the foundational themes of the card. It's also the 7th card in the major arcana. So that means that it's like kind of in the middle. Actually, wait, is it 7? The Tower. Nope, I think it's 11. Hold on, let me push it through. 16. I'm reading Roman numerals incorrectly. XVI. I was like, wait, what? So it's the 16th card out of 22, 21. So you're almost through this full arc. So that makes sense for me or for you, I would say, because you've already been in kind of this career and this, like what you've been doing in your life for a decent amount of time. It's not like you're freshly starting out. You have no idea what you want to do. Like you've done a lot of things so far in your life that you've kind of, like I was talking about with the guardrails, you've kind of bumped up against certain things that you're like, yes and no, like this is going to be something, and or certain things have happened in your life that like they ended in some sort of kind of crazy turmoil that you're like, whoa, like learned a lot from that, like not going to do that again. The light themes from this card are unexpected change, chaos, the rug being pulled from underneath you, beliefs being challenged, new awareness and perspectives, destruction, being unsure of who you are. And then the shadow themes are life becoming stale, refusing to change, fear of the unknown, avoiding disaster, and denial. The message for this card is, whoa, buckle up and expect the unexpected. Sometimes we resist change to the point that the universe shifts in a destructive and chaotic way that fundamentally changes how we see our reality. There's a strange beauty in this deconstruction, as all of the elements for a life will be better found amongst the rubble. Use this moment to rebuild something foundational, something extraordinary. Trust that you will be held by the universe and you'll become stronger and more resilient as a result. Tower moments are powerful, moving, shifting, expanding. The tower energy in your life marks a period when you get to reevaluate, redirect, reestablish, and realign. It's magic in the disguise of unpredictability. The brightest of lights will pierce through the pandemonium of change that you are experiencing, and you will find your beautiful truth and blazing potential in the darkness of the tower. And the mantra for this card is, in chaos, I move toward the brightest light.
I 100% connect with that. I've had many moments like that in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I told my wife when I married her, I said, listen, the only thing I can guarantee as far as promising you, I promise it'll never be boring.
Yeah.
And it definitely hasn't.
Okay.
But yeah, I've had whether it's career, personal, everything. Like when I got divorced, when I left my last job, when my ex-wife died, all that. Yeah. It's and I say it to people all the time now, whenever people say things like, I could never blank, or what about this? I said, listen, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you can handle until it happens.
Right.
You know, and I've always been like that. I've always been somebody who, when things are like up in the air, I'm like, oh, come on, just let the thing happen, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Because once it happens, then I'm like, okay, those are the cards that I was dealt. Now this is my new starting point.
No pun intended.
So, yeah, no pun intended. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I connect with
No,
that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's validating then. So that's number 1.
My life is chaos. It really, no, listen, I've had plenty of, I like when I talk to people when they're going through something that I can relate to, because it's easier to not give them advice even, but just be like, oh, when this happened to me.
Yeah, you're coming from a place of like truly understanding. It's not just being like, well, I hope things get better. Like, no, you've been in the trenches and you understand.
And been like, listen, I know what it's like to be like, what the hell? I'm never going to be able to get out of this hole. Things aren't going to change. But
you do. And I love that. Okay. Number 2, 1 through 11.
Let's go with 2.
The wise one, grow within your current situation. And this is a woman who has an owl on her shoulder and looks like there's like a crow or a raven in front of her. So this is interesting. Like and again, this is your angels and ancestors deck. So this could be maternal figures coming forward that are either related to you, or they could just be your like just spirit guides that are like there to protect you. But the wise one, the message is knuckle down, be reliable and committed, be open to wisdom and insights from your elders. The wise one represents the wisest aspect of the goddess, the crone. In paganism and modern Wicca, the crone is the fiercest, most psychic, and most aware aspect of the goddess because she has been through many of life's challenges and overcome many setbacks. On this card, the raven in her hands represents the capacity to overcome the darker times and to be reborn again and again. So she helps you to tap into wisdom and overcome whatever life throws at you. Wisdom being the information stored in your soul rather than the knowledge acquired in this lifetime, and to learn from the experience of your elders. The extended message is that the wisdom of the wise one is based on something that the younger generation is often lacking: commitment and reliability. When this card appears, you are being guided to continue working on your growth and expansion within your current situation. Be committed to your tasks and projects. It can be very easy to get bored or overwhelmed, but persevere. You're being reminded of how it feels to be let down and experience unreliability, and that is not who you were born to be. So keep working on what you're working on, because it's going to be extremely beneficial for you in the long run.
Yeah.
I was going to say, also in alignment with the Tower card too. Again, it's like being reborn over and over and over again through those turmoils and those moments of almost tragedy. Like, you come out a renewed and different person on the other side because you know that you've survived that in a way.
Yeah.
But I think too, do you have a maternal figure that has passed? Like for me, this would be Grace. Like, is there someone who has passed on your side that you either know or didn't know that you feel like has been like protecting you in your lifetime?
I don't know. I mean, my grandmother, both my grandmothers passed away.
Okay.
The one on my dad's side is the one who gave me that sign. She's probably the one of all my grandparents that I was closest to. The other one, I didn't see her as much.
I mean, the mother of your kids.
Oh, of my dog. Yeah. Well, my ex-wife. Oh, I thought she meant like relative.
It could be. I mean, it's just, well, no, angels and ancestors. So ancestors are the people that are related to you, but your angels, like she could be one of your like guiding angels now. Like
maybe.
Like when your ex-wife passed, you said your ex-wife passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could even be her being like, I've seen you go through all kinds of shit. Like, we got divorced. You've also like had losing her, like, and you've gone through your kids losing a parent.
Yeah.
Like
that's what the
so it's
part.
Yeah. So it could just be her also coming through to be like, you trust in that you know how to handle things like that. Like we were literally just saying, like you've gone through enough things to like trust that you are helped on the other side as well. And like now she's there to help you. Yeah. She's also got your two grandmothers. There's a lot of maternal energy that is here to protect you. And like, it's okay to, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way. It's okay to like want to be like, I just need my mom, or I need a mom figure. Like guys can feel like that too. Like you don't have to feel like you're always the strong one. Like if you're ever feeling like you're almost lacking that, where you're like, I just wish I had like could curl up in like my grandmother's lap, or like, you know what I mean? That kind of feeling. Yeah. Like, I think that's kind of what this card is almost coming through as to represent it, but then also reminding you again, the commitment and reliability. Like you have that. So hang on to it, keep showing up in that way, keep persevering, because every time you're kind of reborn through these different things, and it's not to say your whole life's going to be filled with tragedy and these horrible ripped out from underneath so dark you
compared to yours.
No, like, but I think it's like
Moose, run through a field naked. Ramiro, it's raining on you. You're gonna hit by lightning.
No, but I think they're acknowledging that, like, and even we were talking about your grandmother, where you were like, "Give me a sign that I missed your." That we were just talking about her too. So I think the women coming forward is to acknowledge and make you realize that, like, yes, you have gone through a lot of stuff, but that you've always come out on the other side feeling very strong and feeling like you should know that, like, you're being reminded of how it feels to be let down and experience unreliability, and that's not who you were born to be. Those things are not going to always continue to happen to you, but, like, you're a better person for those things happening to you.
That's something that I hardcore believe. So yes, that makes sense.
Okay, good. All right, love that one. Spirit animal. I'm going to shuffle the deck, but while I'm shuffling it, do you have a spirit animal or a specific animal that you resonate with? It's okay if you don't. I just like to ask.
I mean, I love all animals. I mean, I love tigers. I love dragons. Kind of like monkeys. I've always wanted a pet monkey.
Okay.
I've never seen a moose except for this one when he comes in.
Right?
I love it. All right, 1 to 11.
6.
A hedgehog. The meaning behind the hedgehog is to trust. This is a reminder that even if you feel that others do not understand you or get what you are doing, it is no excuse to curl up and hide. Sure, you may need a little bit of space right now, but the world needs your gifts. You are more than worthy.
Yeah.
How does that land?
Yeah. I mean, that's so funny. That's because these are things that, like, I literally think in my head a lot of times when things happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I mean, I'll give you an example. Like when I got divorced, I was very confused because our it wasn't like your typical, you know, oh, you cheated, you had a freaking gambling or drinking, none of that stuff. So I felt like the rug was pulled out from me. So I was confused for a while, but it's just I've always had this, and it's something that I say to my kids all the time. My older kids, I'll say it to my younger kids eventually, but I always say keep moving forward. I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, the thing happens, and your options are, I mean, you have many options, but I like the two extreme options are curl up in a ball in the fetal position and feel bad for yourself, which accomplishes 0%,
Right.
or keep moving forward. And that could be some days you feel like crap, but just do like one little thing.
Yeah.
One little thing. Other days you might do like a million freaking things.
Yeah.
But just always take some sort of act. Just keep moving forward. I go, when things are going good, keep moving forward. When things are going bad, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is
Right.
sitting still and being like
Stagnant. Yeah, rotting it.
I was talking to my mother-in-law yesterday. Her my in-laws are selling their house and buying a house, and they got a full asking price cash offer for the house that they were selling, and the buyer pulled out last minute. And my mother-in-law's a worrier, and she's like, and I said, hey, listen, you know what that means? You're just gonna get something better. I hope so. And I said, well, I go, let me tell you something. I said, it's a transaction. At the end of the day, it's you go into Target. Sometimes you pick something up and go, I'm going to buy this. Then you go, I don't feel like buying it. And you put it back on the shelf. And she said, yeah. You sound like Jim, her husband. And I said, it's true. I go, the options are either look at it as a transaction and say something better is going to come along, or sit and stew and be upset about it. And what's that going to accomplish?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
You know, I feel like I find myself saying that to people a lot of times, which sometimes it comes out a little mean because I'm like, just grow up.
Yeah, I know.
But yes.
No,
anyway,
but the sitting and the stewing too, that's only almost like attracting more negativity to
that's
it.
what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
like, it literally does nothing but hurt you. When you're mad at someone else, it's that saying, like when you're mad at someone, it's like holding a hot piece of coal.
Yeah.
You're only burning yourself. I said, when you're mad at someone else, they don't know that you're mad at them. They're living their life. You're sitting there being angry. Who's that hurting?
Right.
It's hurting you.
Yeah.
So,
Love that. Good.
okay.
All right, that one's in alignment too.
Yep.
All right, so now the Voice of Souls card. Give a quick shuffle here too. So this is kind of like the overarching underlying message from these 3 cards so far. Let me see. 2 more. All right, 1 through 11. What do you want?
3.
All right. 1, 2. The Burden of Tears card. Card number 21. What, you're like, it's all so dark.
It is so dark. I'm like, yo.
Well, this is like, I mean, hopefully that goes to show too that it's not just like everyone's like, not that yours was like sunshine and rainbows, but like everybody gets what they're supposed to hear. So hopefully these are serving things that you need to hear. But I think it is in alignment. Like, you have had a burden of tears of like certain things that have happened in your life where like it was just served up to you, and like it's, again, not for a reason, could find meaning behind them. But there's also, so there's 2 moons, 2 stars, and then the eye is, there's 3 different tears that are falling from the eye. So I don't know if that has any significance to you, with 3 teardrops. But how long ago did your ex pass?
She passed December 14th of last year.
Okay. I was thinking maybe if it was like a 3rd anniversary or something, or
No.
How many kids do you guys have?
How many kids do I have
You
with
and
her?
Sandy.
2.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. She died right after Callow's birthday, literally the day after my daughter's birthday.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing that I get out of this is like, again, the burden of tears is just like, yes, it's been a burden. Yes, things have been hard and whatnot. But like, you see like the cycles of the sun and the moon, like life is going to continue to go on. You're going to continue to go through different cycles. I don't think they're all going to be bad. But then the hands too, I feel like the placement of the hands is, it's almost like it's not within your control, but like you have control of how you react to certain things. And how you have to, the hands are kind of up to, it's like you're kind of receiving, but you're picking a little bit, like just the way that, and that's just how I interpret the hands. Like you're kind of picking what you're viewing, or also it almost is like a little bit of like I feel like how people put their hands in like meditation too. Like it almost looks like that.
That's literally when I meditate, what I do with my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah. So then that's also probably a validation too, where like, if you do feel like things are starting to be chaotic and the rug's getting ripped out from underneath you, like find that space, and like, even you're not being a hedgehog by crawling in a hole and like avoiding things. You're centering yourself and you're putting yourself back on that like line of destiny that I was talking about before, where like meditating or dreams, where people get like people can come to you from the other side. Like find that space where you can center yourself and realize like, okay, how am I showing up in this moment? How am I going to come out on the other side? Things like that. And then is there any significance of 21 or 2 and 1, February 1st?
21. I've always liked that number as far as sports.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I was going to say, right not. It could hit you too later if there's something that comes up.
Yeah.
But again, all of these things are in alignment. I feel like there's common themes. Any other thoughts or questions on that card?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. And then the last one, your moon card, 1 through 11.
10.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now is the time to integrate all that I have gathered. And again, there's a female, and she's kind of like squatting down and pulling. It looks like she has just like this like spiral of energy within her hands. And she has this really cool like jewelry on her head, and it's almost like right over her third eye. So I feel like right in alignment with all these messages, like you've gained so much from your life in this lifetime, or this human physical lifetime, of different lessons and whatnot, that I think maybe the whole thing of this card is like, how can you bring it all together, bring it forward in a way that helps people? And like, and I don't know, like, again, I think this podcast is really cool because you do have so many different types of people on here, and you're amplifying stories like we were talking about with Moose. But it's like, maybe if there's even a way to like all of those tragedies that you've gone through, how is there a way that you already said, like if you've talked to people that are going through it, that you've already gone through it, like how can you tap into that more, where you can be almost like a beacon of hope for those people on the other side, where if your ex-wife was like sick, like if there's other people that are going through that same kind of illness, like how can you be a support for like the families, or if they did recently lose someone, how can, you know what I mean? Like how can you're on the other side, how can you help pull people through to the other side if they're in the middle of going through it, you know?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes, that one does make a lot of sense.
And then I was going to say, where's the book? I can give you the actual real meaning of it. That's just what I'm getting from it. But this one's card number 19. Integration is just as important as learning. When we've filled our basket to the brim, we need to pause from taking more in so that we can digest all that we've gathered. You're incredibly resourceful with a deep well of insight and knowledge to share. Now is your time to embody the abundance you've harvested and put what you know into action in your own life and in your offerings to the world. Step back and acknowledge your teachers. Integrate what's been passed on to you and share your growth with others. This can take many forms. If you feel like you're not ready yet, know that you do indeed have something special to share, and you can make a positive impact with all that you already are. Now is the time.
Write that book.
Oh,
I've always wanted to write a book.
I think you should.
I love that.
I'm not ready yet, though. I'm only in the middle chapters.
It's okay. You can have many books.
Yeah.
You can have an anthology.
All
But
right.
what are your thoughts? Do you have any questions or things that are standing out to you?
No, I mean that is pretty in line with my life.
Yeah.
With things that have happened and where I feel like I'm at right now.
You were not expecting it to take that turn.
No, but you know what? That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and sometimes, I don't know if you guys ever had this thing where you're kind of like, wow, what's like the reason I was put here for?
Yeah.
There has to be. I think mine was like what I was saying for if I come across somebody who basically is going through shit to be like, hey, listen, I know it seems like right now that there's no way out of this hole, but just trust it. I say it to people all the time. Right now, I'll go back to politics. There are people who my friends last week who were trying to complain to me about, who I was saying, you guys are bullying me. They said, oh, geez, this is going to suck. Oh, if this happens, I go, if what happens? I said, if the person that you want to win doesn't win, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get up the next day and continue on with your life. You're not going to move to Canada. The world's not going to explode.
Right.
You're going to say, this is my starting point, and you're going to keep it moving from there. I just have that, I think sometimes my biggest issue is being empathetic with how I deliver the message to people. Because I'll deliver it sometimes straightforward, and it almost sounds insensitive. Do you know what I mean?
But maybe sometimes though that's what they need to hear versus
Yeah.
like if they go to like Moose and they're just like offloading and Moose is like, I know. And you're like absorbing it and being that buffer. Maybe they do need that hard wall of it getting bounced back at them to be like, no.
Yeah.
Like it's they're hearing from you like what they need to hear. And not
Right.
that there's a time and a place for all of it. And like even when I like teach fitness, I have to do almost like a gauge of like, am I really trying to like go in on this person right now and be like, get lower, move slower? Or like maybe they had like a really shitty day yesterday and I'm like, I'm proud of you for even showing up today.
Right,
like
right.
you kind of, so it depends on what they need and what they need to hear. And I think if your paths cross and there's a message that you have to give and you feel compelled to be like, no, this is how it is. Like
Yeah.
they probably need to hear it in that way. So
Okay.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's it.
I love it.
Moose got the freaking flowers.
Stop.
No, I don't think so.
And I got
at
the
all.
moat.
No, I don't think so. Look, I think the last thing I'll say on this before we end everything, I just think, from the messages you just gave us, for you specifically, I just think sometimes I think it makes sense at the point you're at in your life as well, especially with your career and things. I think stopping and, like she said, your basket could be full of experience in life. I think to look at it and be like, what do I do with all this now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And examine like, what does this even mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you're very like,
Yeah.
it's maybe things have to get maybe things got to shift so you can put some of that experience in.
Or maybe things need to be stagnant for a second so that you can be like, because if you're like, everything's calm and you're so used to having like different chaos things happening that you're just like, wait a minute, everything is fine. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be doing something else. Something's supposed to be chaos. Something's like, let it be calm for a
That's
second.
so funny you say that.
Like you're so used to being in a boat that's like in the ocean rocking around that you're like,
whenever
wait,
things calm
the
down to
water is
me,
calm.
I'm always like,
I'm bored.
yeah, it's almost like it gets bored.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like something. Where's the shakiness? This is not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That's
So like appreciate the calmness for a second because
Yeah.
like you don't always want your life to be madness and fire and the rug getting ripped out from underneath you. Like
yeah.
it's like you've also, I think of too of like in baseball, like you've had a ton of different pitches thrown at you, curveballs, whatever. Some of them you swing and miss, some of them you foul off, some of them you hit it straight on. Like, let someone else go up to bat for a second. Like, you can pause and take a step back and like just let yourself sit. And then if things happen again, like then you can step back into the game if you want to. Or maybe you were like, nope, I'm retiring and I want to be a batting coach because I've known how to like take a bunch of these different swings and all of that stuff. So I think calmness, appreciating and being grateful for the calmness is like something that you could probably lean into more of. Like, don't just be like, oh my God, everything is fine, something's gonna happen. Like, be like, no, I'm glad everything is fine. Like, I've almost like paid my dues for right now for everything to be fine. Like, I don't always have to have something be up in flames. Like, you don't have to be a firefighter. You can just be like, I'm in this cute little rowboat and there's no waves, and like, let's just look at the sunshine and the flowers and all that stuff. Like, I think that's probably one of the bigger messages too, is like, you can just sit and be okay for a minute and like be grateful for it, but truly grateful for it, not just be like, yeah, I'm grateful, but like, really, when's something else gonna happen? Like, because I can tell that you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know,
All right.
It's on. Yeah, no, it's correct. I think everything you said on him is spot on, and I gotta believe in myself.
yes,
And I gotta believe in myself.
yes,
I mean,
and not take on everybody else's stuff. You can help
hard.
receive it,
Yeah.
but you don't have to carry it.
same with him. Like how you said, like what were we put here for? I always feel like I was put here. I always call myself a light.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget how to turn it on because I'm surrounded by dark.
Yeah,
And then I'm like, oh wait, I am.
yeah.
it. Why are you laughing at me?
But like,
That's so aggressive.
but if you leave a light
I'm
on
just
forever,
saying,
it's
it's
gonna
true.
burn out. So make sure you do have times where you're intentionally shutting that light off and coming back to yourself and letting that light recharge, so that when you do turn it back on, it's like, we're good. We can
And it's funny what you said earlier. I literally I had to have a conversation with a loved one of mine, and I had to say, like, you are taking too much from me, that I have nothing left right now. And I said it to a friend. I'm like, I feel like I have nothing left. I was like, I need everyone to leave me alone.
Yep.
And I need I need to worry about me. I literally said this to him a couple days ago. I was like, I need to focus on myself right now, which I've never done. So
another good visual that I have that hopefully I'll like leave you with this, and you'll be like, okay, great, is if you imagine like this big, beautiful glass vase, and like it's filled with water. Water is life. And that water, there's more water every time you put all the things you love into it. Like, that's how you fill up this vase. If you're constantly trying to like dribble out a little bit of your goodness over here on this person, a little bit over there on that person, and here and there in all those different places, eventually all that stuff's going to run out, and that vase is going to fall over, and it's just going to shatter. And like, then your vase is broken, and it takes a whole lot to put together a broken vase than it is then if you were to just stand there, focus on what you need, and let that vase fill up and overflow onto everybody else, rather than trying to tip over and spill out a little here and a little there. Stay rooted in yourself, give yourself what you need, and let it all out overflow.
no, I love that.
All right, where can people find you?
Signaturewitch.com, and or I'm on Instagram at Wadman Dudek, which is my maiden name and my married name.
Okay.
Because I feel guilty that I'm one of 3 daughters and my dad's name dies with him. So got to keep the ancestry loud and proud, you know?
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank
Melissa,
you both.
thank you.
That
This
was
has been
awesome.
such a pleasure. I appreciate both of you. And I appreciate you being so open and like energetically and vulnerable and sharing all the things. So
Cool. Good
Thank you.
stuff.
thank you.